not back in the building. He's in the building. No more holdouts, all hold-ins. But they need to get Duane Brown to the point where he's happy with his contract, so he will suit up and practice and play and get ready for week 1 against the Colts. And this all came to a head right about 4 weeks before the start of the season because, hey, it's one thing for Jamal Adams to not be all in the first couple of weeks at camp. That's fine. That's great. But the clock starts to tick, and the coaches start to get antsy. And I suspect the Seahawks were very motivated to try to break this logjam, and they did. To their credit, they figured out how to do it. To Adams' credit, he did the smart thing at the end of the day. He took the best offer that was on the table. It wasn't going to get any better. It was possibly going to go away. Don't go year to year when you play like he does. And good for Jamal Adams. Congratulations to him and the Seahawks for working it out. Now, let's talk a little bit more about Brown before we pivot to another issue, though.
Cool.
They need Duane Brown. This is part of the stuff that had Russell Wilson upset in the offseason. Remember when Russell Wilson was upset and, everybody connected to the team now tries to act like he wasn't? Well, he was. And one of the reasons he was is because he gets sacked all the time. You need Duane Brown out there.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously it's a pet peeve of Russell Wilson. We've heard it too many times, bubble up through Rumorville the last few years about protection. Again, I'm going to put some of the blame on him. He is a reason they take some sacks, but that's okay too because he's the magic man and gets out of these situations and makes big plays all the time. But regardless, where I think this is a little different than maybe Jamal Adams and that side of the ball, Duane Brown is a professional. I don't think it's ever going to take him too much to catch up. But they are implementing a new offense there right now with Shane Waldron, which, of course, we know is going to be very heavily run-based and those type of things. And that's ultimately what's going to make the coaches nervous is just the fact that, wait, he hasn't got a lot of reps at our inside-outside zone. Some of the calls we do, some of the adjustments that we make on the fly, that's going to scare them, let alone they know it's not one of the strengths of their football team altogether. They're a little banged up at the position. We saw the preseason game last week. It didn't look necessarily all that good at the tackle position. So they got to get this done. You got to get this done, one, for your own football team and Russell Wilson and this new offense. Two, you play in the NFC West. There is super freaks coming off the defensive line every play. So you better have a really damn good left tackle with Leonard Floyd and Aaron Donald and Nick Bosa and company all going to be, a formidable foe all year long. So I'm on the camp of, I don't know where you are. This is it's going to get done. I just feel like if it gets done too late in training camp, you might not see the best Duane Brown early on in the season, and that could affect, wins and losses and their positioning in the playoffs or if they even get in the playoffs.
Rewind 4 years, Duane Brown held out in Houston deep into the regular season, showed up about as late as he possibly could to still get traded and got traded to the Seahawks. So just like the trade for Jamal Adams, they kind of knew what they were getting themselves into. Now, it wasn't a short-term contractual problem with Duane Brown. They took care of that. But this is a guy who has shown that he will take a stand on principle. He will do what he thinks he needs to do. And I don't think the approach to Brown should be the same as the approach to Adams. There could be a little hubris ricocheting around the front office in Seattle now thinking, hey, we'll just do the same thing with Duane Brown. I have a feeling the same thing won't work. Hey, here's our final offer, and we just expect you at some point. This was implicit. It was never said to Jamal Adams, but this implicit message of, hey, at some point you got to put the helmet on and get out there and practice and get ready for week 1. You're here. You're not getting fined. You didn't hold out, but at some point it's conduct detrimental to the team if you don't do your job. I don't know that works with Duane Brown either. I think it's a different problem altogether. And there is, Chris, the way you laid it out, as much urgency to get him on the field and ready to go as there was to get Adams on the field. Because you're right, in that division, with Russell Wilson's concerns, that he now acts like we're never concerned. And that's fine. I thought Aaron Rodgers would be the one who would do that. Russell Wilson's the one who acted like it was all made up, and he's the one who said it. But yeah, they better get it together. And my sense is that now that Adams is done, you're going to have a lot more focus, a lot more attention on what it's going to take to get Duane Brown happy. And the Seahawks, I'm confident, will figure it out.
Yeah, me too.
But but still, there will be bumps and potholes along the way, and we try to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening. And just because there may be some challenges, if it finally gets done, it doesn't mean there weren't challenges. See, I knew what would happen with Adams. The deal gets done. Everybody's like, oh, all that other stuff was crap. Well, no, it wasn't. That's the reason the deal got done. All that posturing and saber rattling and drawing lines in the sand, that's what got the deal done.
Yeah.
It doesn't get done if you don't have that stuff happen, and it helps, frankly, that some of it bubbles up publicly.
Yeah, no, it does sometimes. You're right. Hey, listen, there's a play on Twitter that everybody talks about right now with like Duane Brown being out of action last week, where even that publicly stirs the pot a little bit because, the play Geno Smith got crushed on. Everybody goes, whoa, it's a rookie left tackle. They better get Duane Brown out there and all those type of things. That adds to kind of the circus and the drama behind it. I don't think it's the left tackle's fault here. I think this is Geno Smith's fault, honestly.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
He did not.
Pete, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I'm going to peel back the curtain. Pete has been counting the minutes until he could play this because he was convinced it was the left tackle's fault. And when I got the text last night saying, look, I'm not going to – I don't want to expose my ignorance here and say I don't really think it's the left tackle's fault when a guy blitzes from the slot and Geno holds onto the football and gets swallowed up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry, Pete.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Pete.
Yeah. Welcome back, Pete. You're not Bill Belichick. You don't know defensive blitzes, all right?
19 minutes in and Pete gets called out. Hi, Pete.
But nonetheless, that play on social media does do, a favor to Duane Brown because it just becomes part of the public perception and the media fanfare, and everybody goes, whoa, we can't put Russell Wilson out there. Did you see them protecting Geno Smith? It's all that. All right, that doesn't really matter. It might put a little pressure on the situation, but I think ultimately it comes back to what we're saying. I mean, the Seahawks are trying to create a new attitude and a new style on the offensive side of the ball. They do think they're a Super Bowl team. Duane Brown is, I'm not going to say he's a top 5 left tackle, but I think he's borderline that. He's certainly top 10. And, then you got the Shane Waldron McVay system being implemented and all those type of things. He hasn't really been involved in a system like that either. So there might be some rules and some nuances to that that he doesn't quite understand or at least hasn't practiced a whole lot in his life. To me, I think, as we get off this topic, I think it gets done like you said, no doubt. It's just if it gets done too late, he might let up a sack or two against the Colts in week 1. Or then, Bud Dupree and the Titans in week 2. He might not be at his best, and that can affect your football team.
And one thing about that Shane Waldron offense, during the time that we were off, we had various stories at PFT about it, quotes from different players about what they've seen so far early in training camp reaction. They're doing a lot of the things, Chris, that you were preaching last year they should have done. You come out in a formation, and you can't tell anything from how they're lined up, the pre-snap motion. You can't crack the code. Can't tell whether it's a run, can't tell whether it's a pass. They're harping on that. And as you pointed out last year, they started strong because they had revamped some things, but the problem is they didn't stay ahead of the defenses. Exactly. They had tendencies, they had tells, and defenses started to figure out what they were doing. The approach this year is, for as long as possible into the season, keep defenses from ever getting to the point where they can diagnose based upon alignment, formation, pre-snap movement, what is coming. That's such an underrated point, but the longer you can keep the defense guessing, keep them on their heels, is it a run or is it a pass, you get a chance to execute your play before they figure it out.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a huge part of the game, and it doesn't need to be overly complicated, but that is what McVay is a genius at. And, yeah, you got to give different looks. You got to have a lot of the same plays that maybe start out looking the same but then end up being different, and you got to have checks and balances. That's really where it is, too. That's where McVay is brilliant. And I think we're going to see even more from McVay and probably even Shane Waldron because they got a quarterback who can really, throw lasers all over the field to where it might open up the offense. But they don't let you overplay any other aspect of their offense. Oh, you're playing the outside zone too hard, huh? Oh, okay, well, here comes the speed sweep. Backside linebacker, you keep going flying over there. Here comes a speed sweep or a zone cutback. They have checks and balances for everything in their offense. For when a defense goes, wait, we're going to stop this, they go, oh, well, here you go. It looks like that other play, but it's going to be a lot different. I'm dangling the carrot in front of you. And that's where I am excited to see Russell Wilson and company in this offense and the kind of damage he might be able to do.
And having someone on the staff who has basically one job, which is constantly look at our offense, figure out where the weaknesses are. How would you attack it as a defense? I remember when Eric Mangini resurfaced after his stint with he went from Jets to Browns,
right.
and then he ended up in San Francisco at one point as an offensive consultant.
That's right.
Because he was there to help Jim Harbaugh crack the code before the defenses of the other team crack the code. That's what you're going to need. That's what they didn't have last year. If they did, whoever was doing it didn't do a very good job. They need that this year. Stay a step ahead, figure out where the weaknesses are, and address them. And ideally, the next level is you rope-a-dope the defense. You make them think they've cracked the code.
Exactly.
And then they end up
2 or 3
falling flat on their asses.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's where McVay is brilliant that way, and I think we'll see some of that from Shane Waldron. And, of course, Shane Waldron, like we talked about, this is not Jared Goff. No disrespect to him. This is Russell Wilson. He can throw 65-yard lasers and run to his left and throw a post back to his right. And they got DK Metcalf and company. So, that's where that run game and that, physicality and all those things are going to be big for this team. And Duane Brown, being a big part of that, tying it back all together, is a big part of their success or the success they want to have this year.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.